Greetings and welcome to Guild Wars 2 Weekly, your weekly source of Guild Wars 2 news and info. I'm your host, Zolfury, and the headlines for the past week. To follow up the very big news that is Dungeons, a new blog was posted by William Fairfield on designing the dungeons. Also, ArenaNet released an epic cinematic on the Ascalonian Catacombs dungeon, and there is a corresponding blog about it. As always, links to everything in the description below. That's about all for our news today, so let's move on to our gameplay feature. We will be finishing up the series about the 6 human gods next week, but seeing as it's pretty big news, today we're going to talk about underwater combat. Just to note before we continue, this is not a deep, comprehensive look at underwater combat. This is simply an overview. If you would like a full, detailed look at underwater combat, you can go ahead and read ArenaNet's blog about it, or watch the 20-minute demo from GameSpot, which is what's being played in the background right now. So, let's talk about the main things about underwater combat. The first, and I would say most important thing to note, is the fact that you do not have a breath bar underwater. They give you a breathing apparatus that lets you, well, breathe underwater, so you don't have to worry about drowning. I cannot stress how much I love this. That's one of the things that was a big hindrance in other games, is that if you wanted to explore underwater, not only is there not much to explore, but you also had to manage your breath bar. I really like the freedom that this gives you. As I'm sure you can tell by the background video, combat underwater will feel much like it does above water. It's fast-paced, it's intense, and most of all, it's fun. So while we're on the subject of combat, let's talk about the differences between above water and underwater combat. As far as the way the mechanics work, nothing really changes. It really comes down to the skills. You have a different set of skills for when you are underwater as opposed to when you are above water. This is because there are different weapons for underwater. Underwater weapons can only be used underwater, and everything else can only be used above water. No, you cannot go underwater with your sword and shield. I'm sorry. However, they have given us some pretty awesome underwater weapons. And those are, first of all, the spear. This is a melee weapon. And the trident, this is a magical weapon, and the harpoon gun, which is your ranged weapon. The spear can be used by the warrior, the necromancer, the ranger, the thief, and the guardian. The trident can be used by the necromancer, the guardian, and the elementalist. And the harpoon gun can be used by the engineer, the warrior, the ranger, and the thief. I would assume that in your equipment, you would have a place to equip your above water weapons and your underwater weapon. When you go into water, you can swim freely on the surface. On the surface, you have no skills available. Honestly, I don't like this. I'm concerned that if you're just swimming along on the surface, minding your own business, you start getting blasted by someone on the shore, you can't do anything. You have to either go underwater, which means you can't really see them, or you have to take the time to swim to shore. I could see this as being a problem, but I am trusting in ArenaNet. I hope this won't be an issue. We'll just have to wait and see. So, to actually get your skills, you have to move from the surface to underwater. Then you pull out your underwater weapons, and you can use their skills freely. The last topic that we should talk about is how being downed works underwater. Just to give a brief background for those who don't know, when you are on land and your health goes to 0, you go to a downed state. From here you have another set of skills where you can use some attacks, but you are permanently on the ground and you cannot move. This is of course until you either kill an enemy, which will cause you to get back up, or an ally comes and revives you. How this works underwater is, when your health goes to 0, you will go to a drowning state. And just like above water, you can rally by killing an enemy. The other way is to swim to the surface. And then you will put your breathing apparatus back on, and you can dive back down to keep fighting. So, that's me done for the day. I certainly hope you enjoyed it. As always, there's links to everything in the description below. Be sure to check them out. Be sure to tune in on Thursday for the history of the Char, or a week and a half for an overview of the Resilient Humans. I'm Zolfury, and I'll see you around.